The next panel member who is with us today is Michelle Cooper. You've heard of Michelle Cooper in her business spotlight. Michelle, you want to join us? I love the way that Michelle puts this, the priestess of profit. And so Michelle has had quite a journey through her business, growing an empire, literally, of bookkeeping, coaching, services, like you heard her mention, not only in Canada, but in the US. And so what I believe Michelle knew and understood is that you have to think outside of the box, that sometimes you can just go ahead and do your thing, right? But if you open up and take those blinders off, there's a world that you can develop that is extremely interesting. And that's what Michelle has done in her coaching and business practice. And Michelle, it's awesome to have you with us here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I am just so grateful and honored to share this panel with Sandra and Kelly.
We're going to have fun. All right. So our last panelist is Dr. Kelly Shue, who you also have seen in a business showcase today. Hi, Kelly. How you doing?
Doing great. So happy to be here.
Good. Boulder, Colorado in the house. I like that. Kelly Shue is an amazing woman who has pivoted herself. So Kelly has run many different facets of business. And I think what everyone on this panel has in common is that they know how to look at what's happening in the world, what's happening in their business, and what are the next moves they need to make to help them reach the goals. So Kelly has done that in many different ways. She's now the Women's Worth, and I love that, the Queen of Worth, or the Women's Worth Worldwide Movement, where you help all these women learn to think differently about their business and about their possibilities. And Kelly, you, Michelle, Sandra, you're all a gift to the women that are with you and coming behind you. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here today too, Kelly. Awesome to have you. All right, so ladies, some of you are guests and the slide went by kind of quickly, but I want to anchor on the fact that when Sandra set the mission for EWomen Network, she had a bold mission that she puts on a slide, and all of us as managing directors and members know, when we see that slide come up, it anchors us into why we're here each day, each time we show up. And that is the slide that Moira showed us that said, Sandra's vision and mission is to help 1 million women make $1 million in their business. And she's got quite a lofty goal on how many of those women will be and when it's going to happen. And every day she shows up, every day she shows up for us as the managing directors and for the members of the organization to help us see that vision become a possibility. So that's where we're going to anchor ourselves, because I want to ask you all a question. When you saw that slide come up, what went through your mind? What thought did you think? Was it, yeah, baby, that's me. I can do it. I'm here. I'm for it. Or did you have a thought that went through your head that was like, yeah, that's for somebody else. That's not me. I'd have to work too hard. I'm not smart enough. I don't think it's possible for me, right? So Moira is always talking about her entire chapter focus is around mindset of what it takes to see the possibility. So that's where we're going with our panelists. We're going to talk to them about, and the first question, and I hate the fact that you all only have 2 minutes to answer the question. I know we could talk about it for hours, but the very first question that I would love to ask you after that context setting kind of scenario is, would you please tell us about the moment when you knew it was possible to grow and develop a $1 million business? Now, I'm not talking about how you were going to do it, because God knows that changes. But the question is, what was the moment? What was the aha? And what did it feel like? And what was going through your mind? Sandra, would you like to start?
For me, it was a moment when I was getting ready to quit. I was exhausted, I was tired, I was worn out, and I was broke. And my mom called and she was asking me how I was doing. My kids were out in the backyard. I told her it wasn't going well. I thought that I was going to, find a job and do EWomen Network on the side. She asked me, how many hours are you putting into EWomen Network? I said, probably around 70. She says, and you're going to get a job. How are you going to do that? And I said, I don't know. Maybe I'll just quit. Maybe I'll just park it, come back to it another day. And she said to me, she says, well, how do you know you're not quitting 5 minutes before the miracle begins? And it was a really powerful moment for me. I'll never forget it. And I looked at her and I said, I don't know. And she said, well, then you can't quit. And she said, I'm not saying don't quit. She's just saying, if you do, you have to know. And I said, then what do I do? And she said, honey, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you to do, but I do know one thing. And that is, I raised a daughter smart enough to figure it out. And it was a moment for me, Susan. It was a moment for me in my lowest of lows to have somebody that believed in me, even if they couldn't give me direction. And what I needed was for just someone to believe in me. And then I knew that that would give me some of the fuel, because I was on an empty tank, to begin to figure it out. And that's when I embarked on a whole nother journey that I ended up hiring a coach and hawking clothes and everything that I had to pay for it. And that changed it.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Sandra. If you had to give the women in the room counsel on where to find that voice, because some of them may not have mom, right there for them, how would you help them identify that person who could be that voice for them?
Well, what I would say to you is, if it's one thing that I have learned, that is no one makes it alone. And everybody that I know that's made it has a network. And you have to park yourself in a network so that people really get to know you, so that they get to know you and feel comfortable helping you, raising up the mirror when you need that to be raised up, and that they trust you and you trust them. And that takes time. I think sometimes your network can shrink in size and increase in value.
Okay. Thank you, Sandra. And I got to cut you off. And this is so awkward for me, guys. You don't cut off your leader, but I have to. And I really, really, really want you all to take in the last thing Sandra said, because when I was in a room with her and Moira recently, and she said that, and I was like, wait, can you say that once more time? Your network can shrink in size and increase in value. A lot of times we feel like we have to be out there doing all these things, touching, doing, meeting, doing. It's like, find the right people to surround yourself with. Outstanding counsel. Thank you. All righty. Thank you, Sandra. Michelle Cooper, lovely lady. I would love to ask you that same question. When was the moment that you knew? What did it feel like? What were you thinking?
Yeah. The moment was really when I kind of actually looked up and looked at what I had already created, and was like, oh, hang on. If I just did this, I would reach $1 million. Like, if I just rinsed and repeated this, I would reach $1 million. And so in my journey, I tried so many different things, right? Like, I offered money mindset coaching. I offered one-on-one coaching, group programs, bookkeeping, accounting, tax. Like, I had like this variety of things. But when I really kind of paused to look at the data, I was like, oh, hang on. Like, maybe some of these things I'm trying, they've been here to serve me and they've taught me something, but really where the fastest moving stream is this service right here. Everything else is distraction.
Oh man, that's good, Michelle. And what's really the best part of that is sometimes as we're going through that creation process and we're not getting quite the results we thought we would, we get kind of bogged down in that, oh, not again, right? And yet what I'm hearing you say is, look at what you've created and what is it telling you about the next best place? Where is that synergy that you can go to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything is there to teach us something. It is. I was just reading, I don't know if anybody has read Dan Sullivan's new book. It's called The Gap and the Gain. Outstanding book to take a look at, because part of what Michelle was talking about was the analysis and understanding of data, but sometimes you do have to overcome the mindset part of it. And Dan says, if you look backwards to see what you have already produced and get inspired by it, it helps that next step come a little bit easier. So it's a great book. All right, thank you, Michelle Cooper, appreciate that. And Dr. Kelly Shue, same question. Do you need me to repeat it, or are you good?
No, it's that moment, and the moment is where the magic always is. And I spoke to it in the little bit that I had. I'll never forget, I had been in a coaching business for 5 years. So I had a 5-year-old daughter, and we had gone from a dual income family to really a single income, because all the money I was putting out, like it wasn't coming back. So, and as I said, it looked like I was successful. And literally I was getting ready to turn 40. And my husband said, look, you've been 5 years into this. And at that point I was serving women that had been diagnosed with herpes, and I was serving them well. And we were struggling to make our mortgage. And my husband's like, I know you're here to make a difference, but we can't do this any longer. And I'll never forget. So I hired I'd done all the things, and I hired this coach, and we're 3 months in and still like waiting. Is it good? Is this the one? Is this the one? And you feel like it's the one. And it was that day. And I love a good challenge. And she said, I challenge you to double your rates. And that was the game changer. That was the turning point. I was in the back of my house, and I'm like, if not now, then when? And what's the worst that could happen? No one could sign up. Right. And I was limping along, and it had to change. It was either this or give up. And I am not one to give up. And I had already put 5 years into it. And that challenge turned into the internal journey of like stopping what I call the lack pattern, where we just give, and we're actually not comfortable receiving. And so that was a game-changing day when my coach challenged me, and I was unwilling to look back and to do whatever it took.
Wow, that was a mouthful, Kelly. There was so much in there. It was
a mouthful.
There was so much in there. Okay, you love a challenge.
I love a challenge.
Right? You love a challenge. And the questions that you asked yourself in that challenge were just brilliant. If not now, when? And what's the worst thing that could happen? And if you can live with what's the worst thing that can happen, what the heck? Like, why not try anything, right? It doesn't mean it's, and here's the other thing, ladies, it's not personal, right? I think sometimes when you're feeling that way, when you're in that position where things aren't going the way you want it to, you make it mean something about yourself, and it really doesn't. It just means that the next best thing you try is going to inform you of then the next best thing, right? It's all about just try, do what Kelly says. What's the worst thing could happen? Let's try something different. And it pays off. Big time.
Yeah. I was already failing financially. So yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love that. All right. So think for our next round of questions, here's where I want to kind of lead us, because I feel like we are at this moment in time, January of 2022. I feel like we're coming out of hibernation. Like we aren't who we were in 2020 or 2019, we aren't quite sure who we're going to become in 2022. Things are still just a little bit off kilter. Let's just say that. So I don't know about you guys, but some people do find that a time when it becomes almost a distraction or challenging to set course and make a solid movement forward. So what I would love to do is ask our panelists about a time, because this is one time, right? The pandemic is one time. I know, Sandra, you have mentioned that you, in the past 20 years, have gone through many of these business cycles. So the question that I have for all the panelists, and starting with Sandra, is how do you keep your focus on the possibilities ahead when times get challenging, especially times like now? What are your thoughts on that, Sandra?
Well, what I can tell you is that, everybody has their dark moments and their dark days, and me included. And so I think what's really important are two things. One is learning how to manage yourself. You lead others, but you have to manage yourself. You can't ask others to do what you're not willing to do. So you have to learn how to manage what I call that stinking thinking. I've named her. She's Critical Christina. She lives in my mind. She lives there. She hides. I swat her away every now and then, but she creeps back in. She's my small mind. She has a really big job, and that's to keep me in my smallness. So you have to notice when that's happening so that you then know what to do once you notice it. And for me, it's been about surrounding myself with, the right people, the people that, I have multiple coaches. I belong to a mastermind group. I have a great executive growth team. I just know that there are other people that can help me see what I can't see when I'm in those spaces where things become really foggy. And I just know that as things change, to me, this isn't just a new year, this is a new reality, right? I mean, the pandemic is not gone, it's lingering. And it's going to continue to linger for some time. And arguably, some people will say that, it's a new reality forever, And so the question is, are we, leaning back and crossing our arms and waiting for things, or are we seizing the opportunity, finding the silver lining? And that's just, if I can't see it, then I say, what am I not seeing? And you have to have those people that you're surrounded with. Some you pay for, some might be mentors you don't pay for. But other people that help you see what you can't see.
I love that, Sandra. And I do love the other thing that you talk about in regards to this around the blind spots, that being aware of what your blind spots are,
right,
all fits into this picture as well. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, for 100%. Yes.
All right, cool. All right. So here's the thing that I love, and I want you all to think about this. Sandra has named her Critical Christina. Some people call it the monkey brain. Some people have a name for it, but we all have it. It's our survival brain that's there to keep us safe, and keep us small is keeping us safe. So I love where you're coming from. You got to be aware when it is that brain that's talking to you, because when you hear it, chances are what you're going to be feeling is small, tense, and fearful. When you feel that feeling, know that it's either Critical Christina or whatever the name for your person is. And that's your point of awareness, to be like, okay, hold on a second. I'm going to reach out to the logical people, surround myself with the people, and all of the things. The last thing that Sandra said that I think is critical is around expecting change. Hello, people. Change happens all the time. And change is actually what triggers that primitive part of your brain into the fear aspect. So being aware, expecting change, and then being able to go to the logical side and your support staff. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Sandra. Michelle, tell us, can I repeat the question for you? Or are you good?
Sure. Yeah, you can repeat it.
All right. So here's the thing. How do you keep your focus on the possibilities when you're faced with things like trying times and change that you're not expecting?
Well, first of all, we all have change and we all have trying times. I don't care what level of success you're at, but I double down on gratitude. Gratitude is a big part of my practice, of my world. And in the low moments, I double down on that shit. And I find gratitude in that moment for the challenge or the struggle. So sometimes it's harder than other times to find that gratitude, but it's there. There is a gift in everything, because there's no such thing as failure. It's just a different outcome than you expected. And so there's something there for you to be grateful for. So yes. I've come to understand that for me, there's layers of gratitude. And as I kind of evolved in my thinking, I understood that there's gratitude for what we have, what we can see right now in our world. And it's pretty easy for us to have gratitude for that. And there's gratitude for what we desire, which is usually offered as a key tool in manifestation. But the true gratitude is finding gratitude for what we don't prefer.
Oh, so good. Michelle, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
If you think about the pandemic, this one situation, and if you think of one thing that you're grateful about in relations to your business, what might it be from the pandemic?
I have a way stronger relationship with my daughters. Oh. I spend way more time with hugely in the pandemic. And I wouldn't have had that because before the pandemic, I was traveling at least 1 week out of every month. I was somewhere, and I haven't been anywhere really.
Beautiful. I mean, that is, I think everyone in the room can understand that. Sandra's whole business pivoted when the pandemic happened. She was in all these networking events that we're at were face to face. There wasn't anything that was virtual. And so I am grateful for the pandemic because I would not know any of you. I wouldn't know Sandra. I wouldn't know.
There's the gift.
There's the gift. There's gratitude. This is like, yes, change is hard, but change does have benefits to it. You've got to look for it. And that is beautiful, Michelle. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, Dr. Kelly, tell us about your how you keep your focus when things get challenging.
Yeah, so when things get challenging, I'm a very emotional being and I feel it all. I'm also an empath. And so what I really say is lean in. I think we live in a society that numbs our feelings and we're told to keep your business separate from your personal life. And, so I have a whole process that I go through. It's the peace and prosperity process, where the first step is really just to be with it all. Allow the tears to come, like give yourself permission to feel it and surrender to what is. And so that for me is the first step of all of it. Very feminine. It's not my natural. I've had to learn this over years, but to lean in and to be with whatever's there and what's ever present. I also believe that everything can profit me. And what I mean by that is if I am going through a challenge, I am looking for the silver lining. But the old me used to look for the silver lining first before I was just with and gave myself permission to be sad, frustrated, angry, all of that. So be with it, surrender to it, and then lean into your sisterhood. Like I'm in such gratitude. I surround myself to people to be mirrors for me when I forget who I am and what I'm really here to do. And so I lean into my sisters, and they're beautiful mirrors to say, hey, everything, has a time and a place. And maybe right now it's time to stop, but here's your vision. Here's where you're going. I see it when you don't see it. So those are a couple things.
Oh, girl, that is awesome. But hold on one second. Are you telling me that $1 million business owner can cry? Like
a lot. Totally.
I think it's so funny. Honestly, when we start building our businesses, you guys must all be able to relate to this. You feel like you got to, be the man. Sorry, Bill. You got to be that strong, I can do this. I can be tough. I don't have to. The heck, Kelly is giving you permission to feel every emotion and not push it away, but actually lean into it and find out what's there for you with it. And I love also, Kelly, that don't isolate, so that's what I heard from you is lean into your sisterhood, into your network, into whoever it is that you look for support and encouragement, because they can, a lot of times, unfortunately, other outside people can see the possibilities a little bit clearer, kind of like Sandra's mom could see the possibilities and be able to encourage you just over that little hump that you have. It's outstanding. Thank you so much, ladies. All right, we got our last question, and it's a doozy. Because we're going to get super personal here. Are you ready, Sandra? Are you ready? You're going to talk about things you've never talked about before. Just kidding. Because I really do want to know, each of us sees ourselves. We have an identity, right? Everyone has their identity, how they see themselves, and you're very comfortable there. And so my question for you, all three of you, and starting with Sandra, is what have you learned about yourself during this journey that was not only invaluable to moving you towards your goals, but even somewhat needed a tweak? So anything that you learned about yourself that really helped you move towards your goals? Sandra.
So I would say very clearly, and that is that I like things with the high standards. And so everything that we do at EWomen Network, we try to test and evaluate, plan, do review what we've done, tweak it, make it better, have everything mapped out on our project management system, et cetera. What I learned about the pandemic was that I had to trust a little bit more and a little bit deeper and be ready to go. I actually have a quote that I look at every day. It's a Steve Jobs quote about on the way to innovating, you're going to make the mistakes. you're going to make mistakes and fix them and just get onto the business of innovating. And so when we went from a full, 100% live event company, 2,000 events a year, everything shut down and we needed to totally retool, right? All the systems, the programming, the processes, the training that needed to be done. I wasn't going to have the luxury of testing and beta testing. So what it taught me was that you can make mistakes and fix them along the way. Sometimes you just simply have to ask for forgiveness, and hopefully we're transitioning out of this climate where somebody makes a mistake and what do I get for your mistake kind of thing, which I think is really dysfunctional and very harming to small business owners who don't always have the luxury to be able to do that. And I'll be okay. And I'll be okay.
I love that, Sandra. Pivoting, learning when to pivot. And I love that you have high standards, but you're willing now to say, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to accept what is as opposed to what you wanted it to be, right, and be okay with it. That's a beautiful thing.
Better to be imperfectly done than perfectly undone.
I love that. That is the truth. That is the truth. On the shelf ain't ever going to get you anywhere. That's for sure. All right. Thank you, Sandra. All right, Michelle Cooper, tell us, what have you learned about yourself during your journey that's been invaluable in moving you towards your goals?
Well, I think I've always been described as a high achiever, been highly rewarded in my career and in creating a successful business through my dedication and my commitment and my high work ethic and all blah, 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 blah. But what I really learned over the past little while is that actually all of this overworking and overcommitting and overscheduling of myself is actually a survival state. And it took me a while to really understand that I was operating from that fight energy. And so things were like a struggle naturally. There was a challenge. It's always like a challenge, like, oh, I gotta figure this out. And it's like, you can actually relax and let it flow through you and have so much more of a better experience of the creation of your business. And that overworking and that overcommitting, overscheduling, over anything is actually based in lack of worth, lack of self-worth, lack of value. And I'm over it. I'm done.
I love it. I love it. Holy cow. That's a truth bomb, ladies.
Yeah.
Who can relate to what Michelle says regarding pushing. Oh man, now to think of where it's coming from, that it's the survival in you, it's the lack. And we all know.
And I wore it like a crown. Like, yes. Oh, look at me. I'm like this high achieving woman. I'm doing it all. I'm like a mom and a business owner and a this and a that. And like I was just like, whoa, this is actually not relaxation.
Can I ask you a quick question though? Because that's your identity. Like that was your identity. And so what you're saying is you shifted your identity to something more of gratitude and well-being. But Michelle, how did you get there? Like, was it uncomfortable moving?
It was really uncomfortable because very quickly, I'll tell you, and my friends know this to be true, because what I did was I realized, oh, this is lack, and I want to be in abundance and prosperity. And so I need to relax. So then I overscheduled relaxation. So then I was like, I'm going to yoga and I'm going floating and I'm going to this and meditation and like my friends were like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to get all this relaxation in. I can't talk to you now. I have to meditate for 20 minutes. Right. And it was like, hang on. Then I was like, actually, this is a habitual pattern of behavior and energy I'm carrying. And I need to figure out where that came from. Obviously, like anybody else, it comes from usually our childhood. And so I had to do that work.
Do the work.
Yeah.
Do the work. It's worth it. Right, Michelle?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. All right, Dr. Kelly Shue, tell us, what have you learned?
So, gosh, I've learned so much. So the pandemic was, like everyone, so challenging. And I had a particularly over the top challenge that both mom and dad were diagnosed with cancer within a month. and I broke my ankle, and a number of other things I won't go into, but I can remember the moment when I had just been told that night that my mom had cancer, and we didn't know what all that looked like. And the next day, so I'm a very active person. I went trail running, and I was running, and I was thinking about everything that was happening, and I fell. And in that, like literally grounded, I was grounded. And that's when I broke my ankle. And I like just all the emotions came. And you know, what happened during like what happened after that is there was a lot of things I couldn't do for my business that I normally did because there was so much going on in my life. And it was when I had just launched Worth International too, like really wanted to serve women in business. So what I learned, Spirit taught me greatly, is that to be open to grace, to surrender. And I'm actually what I really am claiming now. I'm a healer. I have been for many years as a chiropractor and other things that I've done. But what I was scared to really share was this, like, I'm a healer for women in business. But it's like I've been hiding behind the success and behind like all the other things that were, I don't know, I guess. So the awakening is that I'm a healer, I can surrender, and I was still able to make money over a year that was one of the most challenging years of my life. Like I was still divinely taken care of.
Oh, Kelly, that's beautiful. Thank you. You guys, I hope you're hearing the message here, that really taking a look at your vulnerability and the part of you that you wear like a proud suit of armor can sometimes be the thing that might hold you back from getting where you want to go. So these women who are very smart have shared a lot of great stuff with you today. I hope you were taking good notes. Moira, I apologize. This may have gone a bit longer, but good golly.
I wanted to jump in, and then you said, oh, we're going to get the juice on all these women. I'm like, no, we all want to hear this. So I'm going to just let it go. Thank you so much. I've personally gotten so much out of this. Each and every one of you panel members, and Susan for amazing work at just moderating this wonderful session.